Did you turn on my camera?
I did.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm James.MPG, and my main claim is that homosexuals should be allowed to serve openly in the military. And then my secondary claims are that it's discriminatory for the military towards homosexuals, for them to not serve openly. Americans support repeal on the policy, and then we're also losing valuable soldiers because they're just discharging if they find out they're homosexual. Okay. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is a policy that the military requires homosexuals in the military to hide their sexual orientation. If the military were to find out that the soldier is homosexual, the soldier would be immediately discharged. This includes not only just homosexual, but bisexual as well. And then 13,000 patriotic and highly positioned men and women have been discharged since the enactment about 17 years ago. This policy should be removed because it is discriminatory against homosexuals. In an online article found on solmanresponse.edu states the actual policy. In the policy, it says that a soldier's life is monitored immediately after joining the forces. In addition, the soldiers are monitored whether they are on duty or off duty actively. That means that they are still in the Army. You know, maybe they're not on duty, but they're out, you know, having their, I forgot what it's called, relief or something like that. And then this means that a soldier, heterosexual or homosexual, has no direct privacy after joining. Besides voluntarily joining the armed forces to defend the country, soldiers are subjected to monitoring. In respect to the fact that they may do this monitoring to make sure that a soldier is representing their uniform correctly, on or off duty, but to monitor them besides the fact is outrageous. Many Americans believe that skill is more important than sexual orientation. In fact, about 60% of Americans believe that skill matters more than sexual orientation. As stated in an online article by Gordon Bold. In the Bold's article, he also states that 68% of Democrats, 55% of independents, and 41% of Republicans support repeal. 56% of voters in the House of Representatives, quote-unquote, battleground districts support repeal, and 56% of voters in the Senate support repeal. 63% of Americans would, 63% of Americans would not change their opinion on repealing the law, even if the military was to oppose allowing homosexuals to serve openly. As clear stated, the views that matter the most should not be based on any other views besides the people of the U.S., because those are the very people that the armed forces was created to protect. Overall, I would like to say that this is discriminatory towards homosexuals because in order to protect their country, they would have to hide their sexuality at all times, in or out of the military, in fear that they may get discharged for getting caught. A perfect example of this is when a murder was taking place, when a soldier was suspected of being homosexual. An article provided by traditionalvalues.org states that the victim was Barry Winchell, and in the morning of July 5th, 1999, he was struck in the head repeatedly by his fellow soldier and suspects for being homosexual. He wasn't actually, no one knows that he was actually homosexual at the time. Many citizens looked up to the armed forces and armed forces, and if fellow soldiers are going to go beat one another to death for being homosexual or any other superficial reason, then they will lose credibility. This should make soldiers realize that pity fights against one another should not matter because they are not being trained to fight each other, but for their country. Fighting only leads to their discharge, and we are losing valuable soldiers because of these fights. Not only because of these fights, but because they're also discharging homosexuals. And in a time of war, I don't see why we need to discharge anybody at this point for any other disclosed reasons, especially superficial ones, such as, you know, being homosexual. And then the Army cannot discharge any homosexual soldier, nor can they discriminate against who want to protect their country, because it is a voluntary act. There is no constitutional constitutional rule that you have to join the Army. It's completely voluntary. The armed forces is completely voluntary, and the military cannot discriminate against who is or who isn't homosexual. In conclusion, I would like to say that in order to join the armed forces, one must volunteer to do so. This is a tremendous opportunity to be able to protect one's country, and it wouldn't be fair to only allow this opportunity to heterosexuals. Some say that this should be dealt with after the war, but it does not change during a But if it does not change during a war, then what makes one believe that it'll change after the war? I just don't see it. The government is already potentially taking their right away to marry, but now they might take away their right to protect their country and the very rights that they fight for, and yet they try to take away from them while they're trying to fight for those rights that they so wrongly have been taken away. Thank you.